Welcome back to another edition of Wednesday Night Live of the Contrast Project Lounge podcast. Joining me, as always, are my co-hosts, Mr. Jim Alabiso and Charles Gaskins. Guys, how are you doing?
Doing great.
Pretty great.
Doing great. Yeah.
Hey,
Thanks.
once again, we have a fantastic guest joining us tonight. And one thing that comes to mind, if you're having conversations these days with people, inevitably something about AI, artificial intelligence, is going to pop up in the conversation, whether it be, content creation or image manipulation or even, movies and what they're calling, the deep fakes and stuff like that. But one other topic that's trending is the creation and assistance of AI in making music. Jim, we have a friend of yours joining us tonight, Mr. Patrick Magee, who has been spending some time creating music with AI.
Hi, Patrick. Great to have
here.
you on. So we got, we can't assume that everybody that's watching this understands all the terms, right? So before we talk about your book, can you define for our audience what personal AI means and what going meta means?
That's a great question to start with because that's the key theme of all my answers and why I wrote this music. So basically, going meta was a concept that I originated in 1998 when I published my original book, Brain Dancing, and it's chapter 6. And it's the idea of basically traversing the layers of thought and thinking about the processes that you're using to do strategic mental activities such as learn, create, and acquire information. With AI proliferating, I decided it was time to write another book 30 years later about how AI changes the process of going meta. And it turns out it changes it quite a bit. And the whole idea here with AI is to use, let AI take care of the details so that you can think at higher strategic levels. And I'll explain in more detail what that means. And then let AI work on the implementation of those ideas, and that frees your mind up to be more strategic. And so when we get to like how I use this to write songs, it'll make more sense.
So like kind of like in a nutshell, it just kind of means taking a high altitude look at things.
Well, as it applies to a song, it all starts with what is the core emotion? What is it that you feel deeply about that you want to create a song about? That's the core. If you can focus intently on that emotion and that thought and how you want to express that, then AI can take care of the different words that might be used, give you ideas on how to express those words. And so you can focus on the core design of the song. That's the meta, and let AI take care of in different phases, the details.
Right. And then, so when we're talking about personal AI, what does personal AI mean before we talk about what does meta mean in personal AI?
Jarvis in Iron Man. So AI, the future with AI is not written. It has, in other words, we've seen different movies that portray AI in a number of different ways, but nobody really knows how AI is actually going to play out in our reality. And my point of my book is that we have some say in the direction AI takes. We're not just waiting for the masters, gate masters of the intelligence to decide how they want AI to shape our entire world. We can shape that. And my vision and hope is that we end up in a future where we have each has our own Jarvis. So in the 90s, there was this concept of an executive assistant. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, new articles about how he had an amazing executive assistant. And Jarvis is Tony Stark's executive assistant that basically functions as his interface to AI. And that is what I call, because I could not use a trademark term throughout my book, personal AI avatar. And so what I found, and I should just back up one thing. I don't write books about what I know. I didn't write this book because I'm an expert. I wrote it because I wanted to be an expert and then share with people what I learned. And so as I was on Memorial Day, I'm like, wow, I better learn how to prompt. I had some ideas and I've been studying it for quite a while, but I really didn't have the mastery that I wanted to have in order to write about it. And the more I mastered prompting, the more I realized that I was creating my own Jarvis. And that Jarvis co-wrote the songs on my 5 albums.
So when you talk about prompting, you're talking about what maybe template you would use. when you're
So
creating?
the idea of going, let me say, so this book you have on the screen talks about the processes of writing prompts and using the various techniques from my original book, metaphors, role models, experts, use those as references to AI. So what I was surprised to find is when I told Jarvis, my personal avatar, that I was writing an album, it understood that. And I was like, wait a minute. And so in other words, I said, I said, okay, I want to write a song about this. And that's literally the beginning of the Hard Homes album that we're going to see in a minute. I said, I just want to write a song for my friend. And in 3 minutes, I had the script, the lyrics of a song, and I was like, well, that's a pretty good lyrics. And I wasn't planning to write an album, but I was like, okay, 3 minutes in, and I've got this beautiful lyrics, and that ended up becoming the 9th song on the album. And I thought, well, if I can do a song like that in 3 minutes, maybe I should try to write another one. And it just in an hour, I think it was an hour. No, Hard Homes took me actually a day. I had to work on that one because some of the ideas were tricky, but the main point here is as you prompt, see, Jarvis, or in this case, Super Grok, it knew that I was writing an album. It became my songwriting partner. So when I said generate a prompt to tell Gemini to create an album for a cover for the thing, it didn't generate the album cover. It said, here's a good prompt for Gemini. And I gave it to Gemini, and Gemini just cranked out this amazing image.
Just so the audience understands, because not everyday person understands AI. So you used AI to create a prompt for another AI platform.
Yeah, that's my idea of a meta prompt. And another idea of a meta prompt is when you say, here's my prompt, rewrite that prompt and make it better. So in other words, I'm not prompting, I'm saying, you tell me how I should prompt you. So that's the idea of going meta as applied to prompting, right?
That's how I go about it. That's how I go about it. I take prompts and constantly feed them back in and see how we can polish them up.
But it's all very foreign to me.
Well, it's foreign to most people.
I'm listening and trying to learn. So it's like, okay, so it's kind of like you're a conductor for a writer for you. Like, so that's what I'm trying to make sense of it in a way like that.
Yeah. All right, so that's a good point, Charles. So let's kind of rewind for a second and pretend we're talking to people, the average Joe that doesn't know much about AI, right? So, Patrick, can you kind of explain in layman's terms what you just said to us?
Yes.
Just like step by step, you have a personal, right?
Personal avatar, yeah. So like if you watch Star Trek, you've got Data as kind of like an avatar. If you watch Iron Man, Jarvis. So you find a movie where you've got artificial intelligence, and then I can talk to you in that language. But Jarvis, all of Marvel movies, that is a very well-known metaphor. And the way Tony Stark interacts with Jarvis is my vision for how AI should be used and will hopefully evolve. And I have been using Super Grok, which was, the Iron Man movies were inspired by Elon Musk. They basically designed Tony Stark after Elon Musk
became your personal avatar.
So it was my primary assistant for writing the books and the lyrics of my songs. But I found I use Anthropic Console for coding, vibe coding, and I use Gemini and Bing DALL-E for generating images. And lately, ChatGPT 5.0's image generation capabilities are just stunning and way even better now than Gemini was. But they also limit me to like 5 or maybe 10 images in every 24 hours. So I quickly max out.
Yeah, but I did want to give. If you want to get more out of it, you got to pay money, right?
Yes, and I wanted to give you another metaphor that I think will help the everyday person. When I wrote my first book, it was like, okay, most people are using less than 10% of their brain, and I would say, and when I would give a speech, I would say, did somebody in the audience use like 100% of their brain just for a moment? I just like to see what
everyone
happens.
does.
Yeah, and so everybody laughs because nobody really knows what that means. And so through my research, I realized that the vast majority of our mental capacity is subconscious. And so I drew this giant circle with a little dot in the middle, and I said the dot is your conscious mind, and the big circle is your unconscious mind. Well, now that little dot in today's terms is your subconscious mind and conscious mind combined, and the giant circle is now AI. So today's challenge is Today's challenge is leveraging that can be molded to be your personal Jarvis, your
Mhm.
personal AI to help you build things, create things better and faster. And it's not a, you had somebody on, I believe, I don't remember his name now, but last year, and
Well,
he
you're
was
talking about
saying the
Tim
exact
Fielder and Damien.
yeah, Tim Fielder, I believe this was the one that had these comments that were like exactly what I'm saying today, but a year ago. And he basically said these are tools, figure out how to use them to amplify what your gifts are. So that he really captured the essence. And I can elaborate more, but I'll let you absorb that idea right now. That most people, it's like if the IQ of everybody on the planet tripled overnight and only 10% of the population realized it, then that's where we are today. Is like everybody's intelligence level is just tripled, and most people have no idea that that's happened.
Right.
Right. Yeah, Chat GPT 5 came out recently, and they've really, you know, stepped up their game when it comes to AI assistance.
So it's kind of cool that you use one AI tool to create a prompt and another AI tool to create your product or whatever it's going to be, right? So, all right. So now we have this book. And what does brain dancing mean?
So, very quick summary of the history behind this is that I was studying my butt off in college, 6 hours a day, and then I heard about this seminar, How to Study Smarter, and it basically doubled my study effectiveness. And I was like, wait a minute, you can study smarter? I was like, what? Why didn't they teach us this in junior high even? And then about 10 years later, when I was out working, I read a book by Tony Buzan called Use Both Sides of Your Brain, and I was an avid reader, reading 50 books a year, but he took me to extracting useful ideas from from 50 a year to 50 a month. So I'm extracting useful information from far more books by skipping over what I already know, by ignoring the stuff that I don't care about, by doing layered reading and doing high level scans and just a whole series of techniques. And he ended up writing the foreword to my book in 1998. He's the inventor of mind maps. And so brain dancing is a metaphor for using both sides of your brain. And it's basically, this is why I wrote these albums lately, is because I had spent so much time on the left side of my brain writing my books that I needed to give my left brain a break and do something creative. And that was I love music so much. And even though I'm not a musician, I sort of stumbled into this notion that I could create some songs that I actually enjoyed listening to that were about nerd topics. They're nerdy, It's like I'm trying to motivate high school students to use AI. Okay, who writes songs
Mhm.
about that?
Right. Right. It really has become a trend in all the music groups and AI groups, chatting groups, on Facebook and so forth, that talk about, AI technology, and music has definitely been, popping up a lot more these days. Have you noticed where uh, even professional musicians are using AI generated or AI assisted music?
I did not know that professional musicians were doing that, but I hope that they do because I'm a coder and there's all this talk of coders being replaced. And now some people are afraid that musicians are going to be replaced. And I totally disagree with that. I
Yeah.
think that these new tools are going to allow both coders and musicians to create music that was not practical or was really much more difficult. And so even the albums that I produced, I view them as prototypes for hopefully someday some a live band will want to perform them with emotion. And that's the whole, the driving
Now
force
that
behind my
Right.
now
album.
that's cool. That's a cool
And,
concept right there. Take some of that,
and
Yeah,
that
take
yeah.
some of the energy,
and that's
take some of the
something,
energy.
Patrick.
Yeah.
That's something Patrick mentioned to me while we were kind of discussing this offline over the last couple of weeks. Is that it's like, let's take this song that was prompted by Patrick and generated by AI and give it to a band and see what they can do with it, right? Am I going to the right place, Patrick?
Yes, I've studied, great musicians, how they wrote. I mean, every movie I can find about, how Johnny Cash broke through, Buddy Holly, the ABBA, how they wrote songs. I love watching that because great songs are so rare and so hard to create. So, but one of the challenges that I see and that AI will help is when you have an idea for a song, You can use AI to throw together lyrics about what you have in mind, but you can focus on the melody more and just say and play around with AI to kind of experiment with different melodies, and then you take that to the band and say, here's my idea. Instead of going to the band and going da 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 da, trying to use
Yeah.
hand puppets, now you can actually bring a prototype to the band, and the band's going to go, I get it, and then they can do
Sure.
their improvisation.
Yeah, that kind of
That's
takes me back to what you had mentioned, Patrick, about Tim Fielder's opinion on the as far as using it in graphic arts. It's kind of like, he comes up with the creative idea, he comes up with the initial sketch. AI does all the tweens, or whatever is required, but it's still his creative, and he just kind of looks at it as a tool. And then there's, this comparison, that article you had sent me, or this post you had sent me where by Vladimir or whatever, that said, I'll just read it out loud real quick. Dismissing AI in music is like dismissing the electric guitar when it first appeared. It's just fear of progress. Actually, that's not a true statement, though, from Vladimir's part, because the fear of electric guitar was actually folk musicians that played their folk songs on guitar, and then Bob Dylan came along and started using the electric guitar, and it wasn't fear of progress, it was fear of losing their culture, But I get what the point he was trying to say, or whoever that was. AI doesn't kill creativity, it actually exposes who actually has it. And that's kind of like I don't know, it just kind of feels like a stab. To me, it's kind of like, it might actually enhance somebody's toolbox, But he says the tool is neutral, and that I agree with that. The real artistry comes from the mind using it. If a machine can replace your art, maybe the problem isn't the machine. That's the only statement that kind of like I wanted to kick back and, fist up, put on my gloves there, because, because it's kind of like, if a machine can replace your art, maybe the problem isn't the machine. Well, it's not the musician's problem or the graphic artist's problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an economic problem. What happened to the coal miners when we started going with other forms of energy? Did we lose a lot of musicians because we had a synthesizer? No. It just depends on what industry you're talking about.
Right.
And I don't think we're going to lose a whole lot of musicians because of a synthesizer. We may have lost some, but Foreigner's done great concerts with symphonies behind them.
Sure.
I mean, it's just, there's plenty of examples like that. So I don't think we're going to replace anybody's art. We're probably going to replace some of the stuff we contract out, maybe, okay, so let's say we have some AI made up band that has an album out. I just don't think it's going to make such a big dent. I think the musicians, just like the graphic artists, and that's just my own opinion, the musicians, just like the graphic artists that Tim Fielder was talking about, we're going to use it as a tool. Hey, throw me out a couple ideas about what happens when you break up with your partner and you don't own a car.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's already YouTube channels of AI bands.
Yeah.
Fully created AI music. Even the bands themselves, the members of the bands, they've got headshots of the band members. The guitar player, the keyboard player, the drummer, and all this. And they're all AI
chose
generated.
not to do that. I purposely chose not to do that because it's a lie. I basically said, hey, this music was created by AI and there is no band. And I started generating these images, and I'm like, why do I want to pretend like there are actual people doing this? It's just weird.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that.
Exactly. Part of it is just being upfront about what you're doing. I mean, I go way back, and I was an early adopter of synthesizers. I had an ARP synthesizer, and I had an ARP string ensemble back in the days when I was the first person in Jacksonville on a string synthesizer. And it was like, wow, I can put strings on my songs without hiring an orchestra, I admit.
Well, yeah.
But it's either like, I'm just not going to have strings on my song because I can't afford an orchestra.
Yeah.
So does that mean I replaced the monetary and the economics around using an orchestra? No, it just means I just wanted to have an orchestra on my song, but if I didn't have an
Right.
ARP string ensemble, I wouldn't be able to do it to begin with.
That
Right?
kind of makes you
Sure.
think of like in the 1950s, you had Perry and Kingsley that invented the early type of synthesizer. They one of the most well, actually, they did the Disney Parade things on that, and they were able to do that. They had a somewhat hit song in the 50s called, I think it's Barnyard in Orbit. So they could hit a key on the synthesizer, it made a cow sound. Another one where it made a pig oink. So they had looping tapes, magnetic tape, and so it was like a very early synthesizer. And it's like, yeah, they could like they go on like chat shows, in the 50s and 60s. And they're like, yeah, you want to hear a violin or a flute? And people were like, this is insane. And it blew their mind. And you had like real flautists and cellists get upset about that. But we still pay people money to be in real orchestras and shit. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. So, Nick, how do you think about that? Yeah.
It's just so true. The economy changes because, kind of like what you were talking about, Charles. You look back before we even had a synthesizer. What were we doing? We had a mellotron, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the mellotron, for those that don't know what it is before the synthesizers came out, a mellotron was basically a piano keyboard with tape loops underneath it. Right. So you'd have a whole set of tape loops that's just say the church choir singing an A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Right. Or a bunch of flautists that did the same thing. So you could just sit there you just put on a whole new rack of tapes, nothing to do with AI. Right. It's just a rack of tapes. I'm going to put the flautists in there, or I'm going to put the church choir in there, and it's going to sound like I got a church choir behind my song. And I mean, the Beatles used it. Emerson, Lake, and Palmer pioneered it, right, Charles? And
Sure.
so it was kind of like even before AI, we were replacing the economy
Working
of
musicians.
right.
Yeah. I early on years ago when electronic drums, started becoming popular. I had gotten myself a set of Simmons drums to go with my acoustic set, and this was back before they had real touch pads. So the Simmons kit back then was like beating on a piece of plywood, literally, and you could hear it. We'd have overhead mics, on the acoustic kit, but you could still hear me.
Up the clicks.
You could still hear me slapping that piece of plywood, I mean, you could, but I eventually got rid of them. And then I got some that had the, real touch heads on them. And those were really nice. It wasn't AI, but again, it was, one step further adding electronics into the music world.
Sure. It's just technology kind of, it's just progress. And like that guy that made that comment that I was talking about earlier that Patrick had sent me, is like, maybe it's the problem isn't the machine, but the last sentence was like it's fear of the machine. And we're always afraid of economy shift. We're really not, it's really not about creativity as much as it is economy shift. I'm afraid as a software developer that AI is going to take over my job. I don't do that anymore. I'm retired. But
Join the
true.
crew.
I mean,
Join
that's really the money is the bottom line. And I hate to say that, but I'm a creative. I create stuff every day, and it's like, from a creative standpoint, I'll use it as a tool at some point. Maybe I won't. But for me, I'm not worried about the economy of it, but I'm sure there are a lot of musicians that are. But in the end, I think, Patrick's point about, it's really just a model for a band to use. Because when he and I were talking about it offline from this show, it was like, hey, what I really want to do is just give this song or this album to a band and see how they interpret it.
If you're enjoying the Contrast Project Lounge podcast right now, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And if you're looking to make a deeper dive into the world of news and that matters the most to you, head on over to the Wisecrackers Dispatch, hosted by yours truly, exclusively on Substack. See you over there.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Emotion is the basis to me. There's one of my favorite phrases this is the dedication. It's just as music is beyond words because it's more precise, love is beyond music. So this is what and so the emotions that drive great music are the essence of the songs. You can actually do 5 to 10% is the best I've been able to do. But you get a Lady Gaga from Star is Born, and if you've seen the movie A Beautiful Life, where Oliver gets up there and shits the bed, and then he picks it up and sings, and with the emotion that stops everybody in their tracks. That emotion is what I think makes music powerful, and AI can't do that. And that's why,
Right.
I've found the limits to what I think AI can do
Sure.
emotionally, and that's why I'm done pushing it. I really enjoyed the experiment, but that's all it was for me because I'm not a musician.
Well, let's talk.
Right.
Well,
Let's
that's an
Right.
talk.
interesting point, Patrick, is that
Yeah,
because we talked about that earlier, is like, so you created what, 4 or 5 albums, right?
Yeah.
And you're done.
Yes. I
And the
have no
reasoning
interest in.
behind your being done is why.
I've been using Suno.com to produce the music, and the last album I had, this concept for what I wanted the songs to sound like. And as hard as I tried to communicate to Jarvis, which in this case was Suno.com, I couldn't get it to understand what I was trying to say. And I felt like I was just rolling dice. I was rolling dice hoping that I would get a double six. And that isn't fun for me. And I don't care
So,
if yeah.
so every time you roll the dice, you're changing it, modifying the prompt a little bit.
I was rewriting the words like Flagler Beach Rotary Club. You can't, it's like, okay, Cinnamon Beach, and then the prompt, it's, I said, okay, Super Grok, I just wrote this album, generate a band prompt for Suno.com under 1,000 characters that would make, this album sound good. And I did that about 70 to 100 times. I tweaked it, I
man.
shortened it, I changed every little dial that I could in that style prompt to try to get, I did Irish, Scottish, beach life, tropical. I did all these things and I love what I ended up with, but I didn't enjoy the process at all. And I have no interest in going through that mess again, even though I'm really enjoying listening to the music. That I don't want to sit there and be a really good dice roller. I felt like I was begging AI to do something nice for me. And I don't
Hmm.
want to be a beggar. I want to, so hopefully that
Well,
helps you understand.
sure. I mean, I've had that experience myself, trying to milk something out of AI, and it's just not responding the way I'm
Yeah.
wanting ours. And then it's kind of like, I'm smart enough. I could have come up with something better myself anyway. But whatever the AI creates, I mean, honestly, I mean, it's just basically using the data it's gathered around the world, and it's amalgamation of stuff musicians have done before,
Mhm.
and paintings of artists that have been done before. So but on the other side, the flip side of this thing is that what you were doing, especially with this one, Heart Homes, right? What was the reasoning behind Heart Homes in terms of the
Right. Right.
orphanages and et cetera?
Thank
Yes.
you for
Yes.
asking that. Remember, so what I said is the genesis of all of my music is something that I care deeply about. And if you've ever seen the videos of the mothers gathering water in Africa or the Sudan or wherever around the world, where they have to walk up to a mud puddle of gross brown water and
Right.
scoop that up and go and give that to their babies, that they lose 1 in 3 or 4 babies because of the diseases they get from this crappy brown water. I mean, and so I have been supporting Jan Hansen's orphanages effort. She set a goal to create 200 orphanages in 2005, and I created a golf tournament when I was president of Redmond Rotary in Washington State. We raised $30,000 for orphanages through that. So this has been something that I've followed, this whole problem of clean water around the world.
Hmm.
And so I actually, in chapter 9, I wrote, I said, you know what? AI can take our jobs, but it'll never take our ability to care about something deeply. It won't
Sure.
take our
Hmm.
heart. And so I said,
Sure.
here, you know what? If AI takes all of our jobs, we still have all these problems to solve around the world, like these orphanages and these villages that have no clean water. We can use AI to get them all clean water. And so I called her out in the book in chapter 9 because she's such a role model, and she has these quotes that are so amazing. It's like, time is short, but eternity is forever. So it's like, you may think you're busy, but you know what? Make the most of your time. And I took those ideas from her and her work, her life's work, and I wrote songs about them. And so you say I didn't write the music. Well, she and I wrote the music because I took her emotion and her love, and I converted it into a lyrics with some trial and error. Heart Homes was not. Where do you think that came from? It was me. That didn't come from AI. And so it's like, where do you draw the line between what I did, what Jan did, and what AI did? And that's where that the description is like, people say, did you write these songs? And I go, well, I designed them. I didn't write them. I wrote the idea behind them. I came up with the feelings and tried to represent them in words. And then I had to iterate to get the lyrics just right. And I had to tweak the lyrics. And so I tried Let Hope Rise. That was the name of this album. And then it was Orphanages Abound, because you can't say 200 orphanages worldwide in the song. And, Suno is like, trying to say that. It doesn't roll off AI's tongue either, okay? So I'm like, okay, yeah. Orphanages Abound, and then that didn't work. And then I said, wait a minute, how about Heart Homes? Okay, well, now do I get credit for that? I did. That was me coming up with that name. And Jan's like, Heart Homes, huh?
Yeah. But, it's a collaboration between you and her and computer. Jarvis, yeah. So,
That's
and
cool.
as long as we're saying that out loud, it's okay, right?
I think that's part of it. And believe me, it wasn't, here's a song, it wasn't that. It was a collaboration. It was, I started a conversation, and Jarvis, Super Rock, was literally my songwriting partner. It was like there was an Elon Musk sitting there and helping me. And I'm not kidding. It was, I swear, I have no idea how the songs on Heart Home came out as good as they did. Jan and her staff and investors are thrilled to pieces. And I'm like, how can that be? I know I contributed on the lyrics, but Suno did the music. Suno did the prompt I wrote the prompt myself in 25 words, and it created most of the songs. The music and performances from a 25-word prompt.
That's amazing. Hey, right. Tracy, that's a good way to segue into the title track of that album, right?
Let's
go ahead and play a little bit of it.
Yeah, I'm going to pull that up. We're going to give it a listen real quick, Patrick, and then when we're done listening to it, it's about 3 minutes. It's a little over 3 minutes, and then we'll give it a little.
I wouldn't listen to the whole thing.
We're doing with it.
I have an important
clip anyway.
Yeah, just maybe 30 seconds. So while that's working, the Giving Circle song is based on an essay written by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Okay.
Cool.
So I wanted to explain to you that.
Okay. Let's give it a listen.
All right.
So my prompt started with Mozart orchestra music. You hear the orchestra in the beginning.
Yeah.
If I want to just add something to this in case somebody's a songwriter, can you pause that? So I wanted to just modify what I said. Actually, this album, it was my Avatar, my AI album that was the 25-word prompt. This one, I spent a full day revising, and this song only came about when I said the other songs were putting me to sleep, and my wife and I were bawling our eyes out because it was like so emotional. And I said, make it a pop song, make it more of a peppy pop song. And so then it cranked that out. Okay, but we were literally like, the second song on the album. It's hard to keep a dry eye on that one,
It
so all
turned
this
out
is available on Spotify?
All the major streaming sites, yes.
And then your book is available on Amazon?
Yes. There's
so our audience knows if they want to buy it.
Absolutely. Let's hear some more.
Brain Dancing 2.0. Get that on Amazon.
Partners worldwide, sealing it with a kiss. Fun, make the magic Changing lives, that's the deal. Heart homes, rising up
So if you can imagine where it's saying Heart Homes right now, where,
Right.
imagine it saying 200 evidence of a left. It did not sound good. It was like, what did they say?
I think it's beautiful. To be honest with you, I listened to the whole thing. I listened to all the songs in the album here.
Thank
So
you.
I just think it's amazing how it generates all the music
Yeah.
and the vocals. But there's this guy on YouTube, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, that will go in and use AI to separate tracks. And he did this whole special on, separating the tracks of, a real band's album, separating the tracks of an AI generated song. And it's very easy to detect. Yeah, because AI is just trying to reproduce a sound, not a track. So it's real easy to.
Interesting. What I noticed when I listened to these songs on headphones, the latest album in particular, the music is very intricate. There are many layers of instruments going on simultaneously that you normally, it's the wall of sound thing, where if you're not on decent speakers, you can't pick it up. But it's just like, whoa, they're not.
Yeah.
It's not just simple stuff. It's cranking out complex. And this version you're listening to is remastered. The original versions were not remastered, and they basically put a pillow over the mic, and to make you spend a little more money. And then they basically, for $100 a year, you can master as many songs as you want, and they sound about 3 times better.
So for the musicians and engineers out there, AI is remastering.
Yeah, DistroKid, I think it's called DistroKid, is how I distribute all these songs through the albums. And when you go to distribute it, you can master the songs that are generated by Suno. So wait a minute, if I got this right, I think DistroKid is one that takes the song. You save the WAV files from Suno.com, and you upload those to DistroKid, and then there's an option there to master it, and that basically does its magic, and it sounds a lot better. Like you shared that Monkey and Me song, and I listened to that, and I was like, man, it's like you can hear the 3-dimensional, sound and the layering. It was just beautiful, and I was like, wow. And then I listened to what I had originally produced for Hard Homes, and I said, I guess I'll spend the $100 and see what happens. And it sounded better, but it's still not, what you shared with me.
Well, I
So
know
you like. Go ahead.
Yeah, listening to this, with a good ear and, like you said, with a good set of headphones, you can tell that it's been remastered.
You can.
It to me, it does sound really good. The levels across the board are really good. Very well mixed.
Nice.
I'm really amazed at how much it can, when it knows. I'm sure it's grabbed a bass line from something, right? And, it's rhythm guitar and it's lead guitar and the break, et cetera, all those, parts of a song that have to be there. And you can almost listen to it and say, hey, it sounds like blank, right? But it's really amalgamation of everybody's all the musicians and engineers' skills.
When they when it's uploaded to YouTube takes the lyrics and the song and scans for duplication. And not one of the 80 songs that I've uploaded now have been considered a duplicate.
Copyright infringement or whatever. Yeah.
Not a single, even slightest bit. That's amazing to me, considering how much great music is out there right now on YouTube. That this came out with songs that I like that aren't considered a duplicate. I didn't know what to expect, and I was relieved, obviously.
It's amazing because there's only 8 notes. We've combined them together is just amazing as human beings, right?
Do you have the latest album? The title Hearts. Can you play the second song on that?
I don't think we have it up.
Oh, okay. Search for Cinnamon Beach on YouTube. No, that's the tearjerker one. I mean, the second song on the Title Hearts album. Okay. Anyway,
Like shells on the
what
shore,
strikes me about that
returns
is how clear
That is
that
clear.
yeah. And anyway, I wrote that lyrics pretty much myself entirely, but through many, many iterations. And I had to remove the word rotary because you can't use rotary in a song because that's why you have no songs that ever say rotary, because they will send their lawyer pack after you. And so I had to rewrite 6 of the songs on the album because I had used rotary and I didn't realize I needed to strip that out. And so there's a lot of duplication on this album because I had to remove 6 of my compositions.
Wow. Wow. It does sound good, though. Very clean.
Now if you go to the next one, check the last thing is the next song. It's the third one. Listen to the rhythm and how unique can you scroll down and click on
Beach Life?
Beach Life? Listen, this is just how unique this is.
Wander through the museum's halls, stories of settlers and maritime calls from native
Okay, that's enough.
roots.
So what I'm trying to get at here is that I was getting tired of all my songs sounding very similar. And so with this album, I was like trying to force Suno to produce more variety. And you can hear those 2 songs we just listened to really have very little in common with what I produced before. But it was hard. And like I said, I got tired of rolling the dice.
I tell you, so far in what I've been listening to, it's really well done. Really well done.
Thank you. I've worked hard on them. I mean, it may not seem like it, but it's like you just generated it, right? It's like, well, not really. I had to really think about it. I mean, the design and the motion. Flagler Beach is a special place, and I wanted to write an album about the club and what they've done. And this is
Sure.
the profits from this are going to the club.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so I wanted to, basically create something that would help them raise money for all the wonderful things they do, just like I'm doing
That's
for
great.
That's
Dan
great.
and 200 orphanages. So again, remember what I said. The genesis is something that you care about, something that you feel deeply about, and then all the songs they start with that, all the lyrics and the prompts and and the drive as you refine things. You have that high level, that meta concept in mind, so that you're not worried about what word you're going to use next. You're thinking about that high level meta concept of the emotion and the
And
Wow.
really, truly, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, if we didn't have those tools, they're available to us, Heart
Sure.
Homes wouldn't exist, and the fundraising effort wouldn't exist the way it exists now.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point. I'm a software engineer by profession, and just like you guys are professional musicians, I'm a professional software engineer. That's my passion, and it's been that for over 40 years. And through the decades, I apply myself so intently to things that I need something to balance my life out. And this was music this time, but it's time to refocus on on my profession and enjoy the music. I listen to my 5 albums constantly. So, but I don't plan again. Now that I have those to draw on, I can start branching out to other musicians. I haven't even been a Spotify subscriber until 2 months ago. I haven't played a video game in 50 years, 40 years. I chose not to spend any time diversion to video games. When I used to play pinball, I like a fanatic. The pinball
too.
was literally my theme song when the Who came out with that.
Oh yeah. Back in my day, pinballs and foosball, that was a thing. We had these little halls all over
Foosball.
the place. Yeah, we had these little game rooms all over the place, and that's all they had was pinball machines and foosball tables. There wasn't any pro tables.
Awesome. Oh man.
Yeah, we had a blast with it. Hey, listen, this has been a great. This has been a great topic, I tell you, and it really is something that we needed to talk about. With the, like I said, the trend
Yeah.
going towards AI assisted music. Because everybody's constantly talking about AI, content creation and that kind of thing. Like I said in the opening, but this is certainly another avenue, another level, for the positive use of AI.
And the message I try to convey is prompt boldly. And so in other words, most people, prompt where no one is prompted for. Okay, and it's like this. If I wouldn't have done that, applying what I wrote in my book, these songs wouldn't exist. These albums would not exist. They were, basically, I decided to ask AI to help me, and see. And so prompting is how you do that. And I started asking it bolder and bolder questions, and to see what it could do. And that's changing constantly, but most people don't realize that AI can help them as much as it can. And so they're not prompting boldly enough. That's my closing message.
There you go.
Jim, you got any closing thoughts for us here?
Yeah, I do. I think that, looking at it, when something you feel confronted with hurts, I mean, the advice is just to take a deep breath and a pause before you react. And of course, we want to react economically to AI's replacement of jobs, et cetera, whether they be music, art, software. But after you take the breath and you relax for a second, we've had these types of things, intrusions, or whatever you want to call them, throughout our history. And we're still here. And it's kind of, it's like, if you're honest about it and you're upfront about it, to me, it's kind of like just another tool to use. And so rather than being, and it's inevitable, right? So rather than be afraid of it, as an artist, you might want to embrace it, or you may not want to embrace it. It's just really up to the artist to decide what they want to do. But I don't think any of today's artists are going to fail because of AI.
No.
Can I build on that?
Be enhanced by AI.
Can I build on that? It's the preface of my book, what he just touched on. Do I have time to say one more thing on that?
Sure.
So after writing the preface several times, my wife saying it wasn't good enough, I fed it into AI and it generated this plastic version, which I said, whatever, I was sick of rewriting it, but I still didn't like it. So I went back and I thought about this time at a Tony Robbins seminar, Anthony Robbins, you guys, I did his fire walk, and that was quite fun. But he said, okay, I want the biggest, gnarliest guy in this room, and there were hundreds of people, to come up here and try to fight me. And so he gets this guy, Tony Six, and this guy's bigger than him, and that's saying a lot. And he says, I want you to try to throw me to the ground. And so this guy's like, I don't want to do that. And he said, because Tony's a black belt, right? Finally, he got this big guy to try to throw him to the ground. As the guy tried to throw him, Tony swung him around and started dancing with him on the stage. Okay, so he was using this concept of Aikido, where you redirect the attacker's energy and use it, to your advantage. And that's the metaphor for AI. We're being, in many ways, attacked by AI, but we can dance with AI, brain dancing with personal AI, by aligning with its force and using it to our advantage.
Sure. Again, it's inevitable. So it's just a matter of choice. You want to use it or you don't want to use it, right?
Sure. And Patrick, you had mentioned that you had just joined up with Spotify a few months ago. We sent a link. We sent a link to a song to Charles the other day, and he says, "I don't have Spotify."
My gosh, you're a YouTuber.
But everybody's got YouTube.
Vinyl records too. I mean. I've got thousands of records in my house.
What's a good closing thought you got for us, Charles?
I think enough has been said.
Yeah.
I directly from artists. Do that. That's my advice. Whether it's his AI, buy so good from charities. Yeah.
There you go.
Wherever fine art can be bought directly from the artist. Yeah.
Support the artist. That's right. However they created it. And
yeah.
Before I sign off here, I did want to go back to when we had that topic about, taking your idea as a pitch. In other words, your finished product and showing it to some live musicians, some real musicians, a band, and seeing how they interpret it and perform it. That's a great idea. Great idea.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, some of these songs I've been listening to on your albums, I can just imagine a 7 or 8 or 9-piece band performing them.
So what
Yeah.
I'm trying to do with Rotary is I'm trying to actually form a concert with Rotary supporting, and I'm going to be speaking at multiple Rotary groups around the Northeast Florida area. And I'm trying to find a band that can do a performance live. And because I think in the end, if AI helps us bring us together and celebrate music, I think music has been lost in some ways. And we can have this is upbeat music. Every single song I write is designed to inspire and be fun to listen to. That's the driving force. I think there's just not enough music that's motivating people to, think bigger. And my songs are corny, but I took that chance. So I'm trying to form that event, and it's a pipe dream, to be honest. It's just not coming together. But I do have now with the this Tidal Hearts album, I have enough material for a full performance. Heart Homes was not enough for a concert.
Well, I tell you what, between Charles and James and myself, I'm pretty sure we could come up with a list of people that would play.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we could come up with a list of musicians that could pull it off.
Wonderful. I think that it's the singers I've approached several singers that I feel, have the emotion in their voice, primarily female, and none of them have responded. They think I'm an idiot probably. My joke on that is ask ye and you shall receive, ASCII characters.
One day you'll get a yes.
Well,
but, the important thing is you're using AI for good and not evil.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Guys, been a great conversation. Thank you so much, Patrick, for joining us today. Charles,
Thanks,
Jim,
Patrick.
as
Thank you for
always,
having
another
me.
great show. And we'll see you guys on the next trip around.
Thanks, y'all.
And that's a wrap on another edition of Wednesday Night Live. Big shout out to our guests and all of you kicking it with us tonight. If you had fun, don't forget to hit the subscribe and follow us on all the socials. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and wherever the hell else everybody is scrolling these days. Want to be a part of the next show? Keep an eye on our socials, our pages, and jump in the chat. Until next Wednesday, be kind, stay weird, and keep showing up. Peace.